It's a trap!
Hey everybody, welcome to the Rumor and Theory Review brought to you by Star Wars Newsnet and the Resistance Broadcast patrons. My name is John. Thank you so much for joining us today. We are going to get into some pretty cool stuff. Obviously, Star Wars news is not very hot right now. There's not a lot of official stories going on about future productions, which usually leads to rumors and theories and a lot of stuff that comes out of the foundation of fandom and out there into the internet, into our ears, into our eyes, and into our brains, and we don't know what to do with it a lot of the times. So that's why we like to have fun here on the Rumor and Theory Review. So let's get into some pretty interesting stuff today. Okay, the first one had to do with a thread that caught fire on Twitter from a just random Twitter user who did the old adage of, I know someone who knows someone who worked on The Rise of Skywalker, works on Star Wars or whatever, and we've all heard that before. I know someone who knows someone who heard a thing from somebody who saw something, who smelled something, which led them down the road to a pizza parlor, and the pizza guy knows a cousin who works for Lucasfilm, and they said this, right? It sounds ridiculous what I just said, right? It's insane. Stupid. But it happens. People do this stuff. So this one had to do with a thread alleging of massive problems and changes that went through The Rise of Skywalker up until the very end of production. And this is one of those things that is rooted in people not liking what they got with the movie. So they look for reasons to grasp onto any kind of to grab onto anything that could lead them to a salvation of, oh, what could have been, or why did this change? It couldn't have just been made that way. It's a support for denial, not wanting to believe or accept what happened. It's a human instinct, and people grasp onto these things, and that's why threads like these catch fire and get spread around, and people instantly want to believe them instead, and they turn off the logical part of their brain and just gravitate towards something like that because it helps ease their pain. So this thread said that there were issues with, Palpatine wasn't even a thing, and it was brought in later, sanctioned by Disney because Matt Smith was going to be his own villain. It said massive changes had to do with, Ben Solo and Rey. And I dunked my head in a little bit into this thread. I usually avoid this stuff because it gives me a headache because, it's all made up. So just one thing I saw was that they said that Daisy Ridley and Adam Driver had a lot of stunts they didn't do. And some of the stunts they didn't do involved, a lot of high octane action and that sort of stuff. And just right off the bat there, I knew that this thread was false, because we had Eunice Huthart, who was the stunt coordinator for the movie, on the Resistance broadcast, and she told us that Daisy Ridley did 99.9% of her stunts. The only main stunt that didn't appear in the film with Daisy in the shot was that tie flip. Katie, I forget what her name was, Katie McDonald, I think was the stunt person for that, who did the tie flip. But even Daisy Ridley did the shot. They just didn't go with her version for the movie. So Daisy Ridley did all of her stunts in the movie. Let's be clear about that. The only one being that tie flip where the stunt person was in. And then Adam Driver did 100% of his stunts. We even joked about on the podcast about how his stunt guy was on set doing nothing, getting tea for people. So anytime you hear anything about that, you immediately know, not true. They both did their stunts. And also, when you see a thread like this, say someone, for argument's sake, or benefit of the doubt, let's say they did know somebody, right? They're not going to know all of the aspects of the entire film's production. Because this thread brought up writing stuff, stunt stuff, production stuff, special effects stuff, across the whole gamut. Now, unless this person knows someone who knows J.J. Abrams, and J.J. Abrams is like, well, now I got to tell you everything that happened. They don't, it's just too much. They bit off more than they could chew when they made up this thread. If they had focused on one thing, I probably shouldn't be educating on this. If they had focused on one thing, saying, oh, the special effects department, or the stunts, or the puppetry, and just hone into one area, your thread becomes more believable because you're like, oh, wow, they probably talked to somebody in that one department and they just kind of spilled the beans on what happened. So this whole thread that you may have seen make the rounds on social media about the Rise of Skywalker and all these massive changes and problems that happened right up until the end of production, not true. And again, I know it's something a lot of people like to grasp to because they didn't get what they want in the movie, but just even if you hated the movie, try to use common sense and use your logical brain. And when you see a random Twitter account like Joe78565387628AB9er Hundo says, I know somebody who worked on Star Wars, they probably didn't. Okay, on to some juicier stuff here. There was another big what to do going around websites and the internet about shakeups with the sequel trilogy, and that the sequel trilogy was going to be erased from canon and restarted by Lucasfilm after the removal of Kathleen Kennedy as president. I don't need to get into that too much. Everyone knows that the sequel trilogy is not being retconned out of canon, so you can just forget that. I know all of you out there already know that. They made $5 billion. Those 3 movies alone returned the investment of purchasing Lucasfilm to Disney. General audiences really view this trilogy favorably. I know there's some ups and downs or whatever, but it's just a silly thing for anyone to possibly wrap their head around. And honestly, if anyone actually believes that, then there's a prince in Nigeria who needs your money, and you could probably send your money over to him. Okay. Now, the one thing about this story, though, that I think might have some truth to it is the departure of Kathleen Kennedy. I've spoken to some people with connectivity here, and I believe that Kathleen Kennedy will be departing Lucasfilm as president. I know her contract is up at the end of 2021, so that gives another year and a half. But I am of the belief that this may happen sooner. I think there may be a big shakeup at Lucasfilm. I don't know what that means for projects that are currently in development. We have the Cassian Andor series, the Kenobi series. Leslie Headland is going to be showrunning an untitled series for Disney+. You have, I believe, J.D. Dillard was officially announced as creating a movie for Star Wars. And of course, you have Taika Waititi doing a Star Wars film and Kevin Feige producing a film. I'm guessing it's going to be producing the Taika film. So you have all that stuff in development and a bunch of other stuff as well that we don't know about. But I'm curious to think what of that survives if there is a big shakeup. But I do think some big changes are coming at Lucasfilm from the top down. I don't know what that means in terms of what Lucasfilm is going to look like. Is Story Group affected at all? Are they going to be making changes to the publishing department? Are there going to be changes in overall with the production of films, how series are handled? Does it change all of the executives in terms of live action? So Michelle Rejuan, does that change? So I'm not sure, but I really do think there is a shakeup coming at Lucasfilm. And you know what? It could be Kathleen Kennedy wanting to depart now. I'm not really sure, but as fans, we kind of are wondering what is going on because we keep hearing about all these changes in productions from when this whole thing started, leading up to the most recent big one being that Benioff and Weiss left their series of films, which I personally believe were supposed to be connected to the High Republic books, and that's why those were hyped, and that's why those were delayed for a while, and now they're kind of on their own island, and they're not sure what's going on there. So that part's just speculation on my end, but I think that might be the case. But, and then, you know, I've talked to other people too outside of the Star Wars space in the Disney space. And it turns out that this isn't just relegated to Lucasfilm. I think Disney's going to be doing some shakeups. They're a very manager-heavy studio. So all their departments and all their studios underneath the umbrella are very manager-heavy. And I think they're trying to pull away from that a little bit and maybe bring more control to the central hub, to the Mouse House. Instead of having all these presidents and managers ahead of their own studio, they probably want more of a cohesive voice. So I think there's going to be a lot of shakeups from the parks to studios, and you know this may have to do with the transition too from Bob to Bob as the new CEO. So it's not just Star Wars that's going to be going through changes. I think a lot of the Disney studios are going to be going through changes. I mean, a lot of people are going to say, like, how could they change Marvel? I mean, Marvel's been flawless. Everyone seems to love it. They make billions and billions of dollars. So I don't know about Marvel, but I know that from what I heard in 2 different places now, out of what's going on with Star Wars and Disney as a whole, both line up, and both stories I've heard match up, that there are going to be shakeups going on. So I'm not sure. Again, a year and a half left on Kathleen Kennedy's contract. I thought that she was going to ride that out and then maybe go her separate ways. She's going to be in her late 60s. She doesn't have anything else to prove to anybody anymore. They knocked the sequel trilogy out of the park, in my opinion. They've made a lot of money. I think they've done well. But in terms of heading a studio, Kathleen Kennedy, brilliant producer, one of the greatest producers of all time. Any movie you can name it through our childhood, E.T., Jurassic Park, Indiana Jones, Star Wars, go down the line. She's on it. She's involved. She produced it. Legend. She was producing movies when most of us were either in diapers or not even born yet, right? So we have to have a lot of respect for Kathleen Kennedy there. But running a studio is a different thing. Being a president of a studio is clearly a different thing, and I think she's had some struggles with that. So I think she may be departing sooner than the end of 2021, and I'm curious to see what that means for the future of Lucasfilm. I'm actually kind of interested because we know what we've been going through up until now. Maybe a new voice is needed. I am starting to lean that way. But so that's it. That's the deal here on the Rumor and Theory review. Obviously, the first thing, the thread about the rise of Skywalker, you're going to keep seeing these things pop up because people want to latch on to anything to give them any kind of reason as to why the movie didn't go the way they wanted it to go. That's just human. Again, it's a human instinct for denial and to cope and that sort of stuff. You can't buy these things, really. The movie is what it is, and there's a lot less conspiracies than you may think. And the sequel trilogy, though, like that's another springboard right into it. Not being canceled, not being taken out of canon. So anyone who loves the 3 movies in the sequel trilogy, don't worry, they're not going anywhere. They are very much canon. Rey Skywalker is very much canon, and I can't wait for those action figures with that name to come out on it. But the last thing that I do believe, I think there is going to be that big shakeup at Lucasfilm and Star Wars, and not just Lucasfilm itself. I think Disney across the board. So I think big changes are going to be coming. Curious what they're going to be. But we're all in this together, and either way, Star Wars is Star Wars, and that's what it's all about. I know you're seeing right now I'm wearing our new revised version of Gary the Porg. It's Carrie Fisher's dog, Gary, dressed up as a Porg. You can get that at teespring.com/stores/Resistance Broadcast edition, in addition to our other designs like Make Solo 2 Happen, our Resistance Broadcast logos, and all that sort of stuff. I want to thank Star Wars Newsnet and all of our patrons at patreon.com/Resistance Broadcast for all of your support. This video and a lot of our other exclusive videos on our channel do not exist without your support, so thank you all so much. If you do want to check that out, tiers start at $2 a month, and there's a lot of exclusive content over there, including about 5 hours of mini episodes every month heading your way, including Q&As, and we have a commentary coming up for The Empire Strikes Back. But let me know what you guys think about all these rumors in the comments. You can hit me up on Twitter at Johnny Hoey, and obviously find me on the Resistance Broadcast every Monday and Thursday with James and Lacey, and of course writing and editing over at StarWarsNewsNet.com. I hope everyone out there is doing well, you're safe, and this has been a heck of a year in 2020. So Star Wars is always a fun escape for all of us. So at least we can enjoy that together. And thanks for stopping by. Again, hope you're all well, and I'll see you soon. As always, we'll see you around, kids.